I've been using the Polar Verity Sense armband now for 3 months. I'm going to share with you my honest review and actually the shocking results I've already seen. So I purchased the armband back in May. This isn't sponsored, this isn't an ad. This is going to be my honest review discussing the data outputs and what it does, the pros, the cons, and would I recommend it. Firstly, let's talk about the data outputs and what it does. If you already know what it does, you can skip ahead and I'll send the timestamp where you can jump straight into my review, my thoughts, and would I recommend it. In really simplistic terms, what it does is it's regularly monitoring your heart rate. As I said, so much more frequent intervals than, say, a smartwatch like this one, and so it gets more accurate reading. From this, it assigns what they call pace points, which are based on the elevation of your heart rate and the duration that it stays elevated. And after wearing the band for a while, it will kind of assign you its suggested pace points for your day as your budget. Now, you can tweak this. Originally, it set me quite a relatively low pace points that I was just not getting into, so I did bump it up a little bit. But now I've been using it for a while, I might go back down to the recommended pace points because I feel like I've got so much greater control lately. The aim of this is obviously to stay within that budget, so you can pace your activities and hopefully feel the benefits from that afterwards. Every morning you have the option to do a morning body scan. Now what this does is it scans your heart rate for your resting heart rate. It looks at your heart rate variability, so how much this is changing. It also looks at your symptom tracking, which I'll talk about in a minute. It uses all of these things to then build up your morning stability. It kind of looks at the trends, if it's above or below your average for, I think it's 3 months. This can then be used as an indicator. It's scored on a 1 to 5, with 1 being the, okay, you really need to take today a bit more slower, more rest, and perhaps just think about what you're doing, whereas 5 is the higher rate stability. This can then be used as an indicator, and it does really pick up when I'm feeling more run down, feeling it like I'm in a flare. I would definitely see that my morning stability is a lot lower. As said, it also has the function to track your symptoms. Now it gives you kind of a base what symptoms to track, but you can completely edit this to track whatever you want. 1 to 5 scoring, so you just click these through in the evening. It then has basically a yes or no symptom track. So did you have a crash? Do you have an infection? And again, you can monitor this how you like. So I added a specific pain relief if I'm needing to take that. So there is a lot of customability and you can tailor it to track what you want. Then what is really cool, it gives you the ability to look at trends, to look at patterns, and you can compare different metrics side by side together. Let's say your resting heart rate scores over the course of a couple of days compared with symptom tracking score you gave for the amount of pain you're in, for instance. It's really cool that you can match these up together, and I'll put in a little screenshot to show how you can compare, look at trends and all that good stuff. So moving on to the pros of the armband. Now I mentioned before that it does read your heart rate at much more frequent intervals. Now this gives a really good reading. So I do have a smartwatch, it is a Fitbit, and from that on the whole, yes, okay, I can see elevations in my resting heart rate most of the time, but actually with the Polar Sense, it made me realise how much more my heart rate is jumping around than I initially thought. But this has been really useful in identifying the activities that I do in the day that really do spike my heart rate, and then think about how I can adapt it to keep my heart rate at a lower level. And it really made me realise that actually my autonomic condition does have a bigger impact on my day-to-day than I thought. As said, with my Fitbit, yes, okay, I could kind of see when it was really staying up in that elevated heart rate zone, but actually with this you can see the jumping around so much better. And as said, that's just really useful to then look at activities or things that I'm doing and how I can try and adapt them slightly to minimise all this jumping around. Or equally, for those activities that my heart rate stays elevated, so we mentioned before that the pace points are assigned on heart rate, elevation and duration. So if I'm doing an activity, say putting the washing up, and actually that is keeping my heart rate elevated for a really long duration, I can then look into, okay, how can I break this task down? Can I ensure that I'm seated at all times? All these sorts of stuff. And so for that, it has been really insightful to actually have that data and understand the impacts it's having on me. How it notifies you that you're kind of in your exertion heart rate is you can get a notification to your phone. Now, when I'm doing kind of day-to-day tasks, I might not always have my phone on me or have it in do not disturb mode. So what I've done is I've paired the notifications to my smartwatch. So this means when I'm going about my day, it will ping up and it will say, you're in your exertion zone, you've been in there for 2 minutes, for 4 minutes. And from that notification, I can go, okay, do I need to take a rest right now? Do I need to sit down? And honestly, that has actually been the most valuable thing about having this armband. It has enabled me to make those small behaviour changes that actually have such a big impact overall. So for instance, I've realised that one of my biggest expenditures is in the morning when I'm rushing around trying to kind of get everything all together, pack my bag and then load up the car. And I should have really known that obviously that is going to elevate my heart rate for a long period of time too. But I think I just don't really think, I'm like, oh yep, I know that's difficult in the moment, but I kind of cope, I deal with it and we move on. So even just actually being more organised, having my bag packed from the night before, or even loading the car in advance, because then I know I'm not using up a big chunk of my pace points and my energy for the day when I've got a busy day ahead. Now moving on to the cons. And actually, I haven't really found that many. Yes, okay, it is visible literally on your arm over the summer months, but it doesn't really bother me. It's, more useful for me to have the data, to understand, to get the alert so that I can manage my day so much better. You can use this in the shower, but one thing I would say is definitely buy a second armband. They are like elastic, but again, it's really useful to wear it in the shower so that you can see the impact that the shower is having on your pace points. And so for instance, if I just kind of have a body shower compared to a shower where I'm washing my hair, that shower takes up so many more pace points. I know it fatigues me more, but actually to see it in quantifiable data is really interesting. But I would recommend getting a second armband so one can dry out and then you can use the other one. Also from a kind of sensory point of view, I've got used to it relatively quickly, which is really good. But as said, when they get damp, that is then just a sensory ick. So actually getting the second armband has been really helpful to reduce that. I would say another con, or maybe more an opportunity for improvement, would be the analysing of the data could be more sophisticated. Now, I am a bit of a data head. I come from a science background. I absolutely love it all. But at the moment, you can only kind of compare, I think, two different kind of data points with trend lines as well. But it'd be really good, unless you are able, and I haven't looked into it properly, but to be able to export that data and dive straight in and really look at all the correlations. Now, that might be quite niche and not everybody may want to do that, but for me, I would find that so interesting. I know that the app itself is continually developing, so maybe in the future that's something they'll look into. I wouldn't necessarily say this is a con of the armband itself, but for a really long time when I had it, I was seeing all this data, I was always over my pace points, and I was like, I don't see how I can get under the pace points assigned for my budget for the day. I was doing small changes and wasn't really seeing a huge amount of reduction. However, I would say that's actually really changed lately, and I will show you how I went from this being my normal week down to this. So it's not really a con of the armband itself, but at the beginning it was really frustrating to be like, I'm trying so hard here to reduce the amount of points I'm using in a day and then not seeing them impact. Maybe if the app could give some suggestions on how to reduce pace points, that would be helpful. There is a community space in the app, which to be honest, I haven't really used, and maybe there people share their experiences and share their tips and tricks. So I was just looking back and editing all of the footage that I had for the visible review. And now I was thinking more so from product functionality perspective in terms of the pros and the cons. And what I didn't think about was actually how I got it and the ongoing cost of that as well. So buying the visible band itself was relatively expensive, and then I bought a year membership with that. I can't remember the figure off the top of my head, but I will put what it was. But it was a considerable sum. And actually, if this isn't disabled chronic illness life, I don't know what is. But I'd recently just started a new job where a pay rise was also in the cards. And so I was like, right, I'm going to treat myself to the Visible because I've seen it online. I really hope that it can, help me pace, and especially with working away and just always doing far too much, I thought it would be really insightful and useful to use that data to do the behaviour change to kind of try and minimise the pace points and stay within the budget. So yeah, a con we can't escape talking about really is the cost. And especially when disabled people have like extra incurred costs of up to like 900 and I think it was like £28 in the last scope survey per month. We have to consider this. And again, it's just whether, that cost, and it is going to be an ongoing cost as well, because each year you have to sign up to the membership. So it's just, I guess, weighing up the benefits of, does the financial cost, give you the assurance, the data you need, and enable you to change aspects of your life. And I think that's something that each individual is going to have to weigh up independently. Would I recommend it after using it for about 3 months now? Yes, I would. I think it definitely depends on what the output you want is. If you do just want to be able to see the data, track the data, maybe even use that to show to healthcare professionals, your doctors, just to demonstrate actually, you've got this longer data set than, going in for a quick test, actually showing the impacts it has on your life. I think for that reason, it could be really useful. I think the biggest benefit of it is, as said, being able to use the notifications to make you realise, okay, I'm in that exertion zone, maybe I just need to take a little break for now. And then identifying where you can make them small behaviour changes that do start to add up. Overall, I have to say I am really impressed by the Polar Sense armband. As said, it took me a bit of a while to be able to feel like I had that control and could actually reduce my pace points down to below my budget. But there are so many things that influence it on this. I didn't realise that my sleep has so much more of an impact on my heart rate and the elevation and duration that happens throughout the day. It wasn't until I could actually compare these two data sets in the app that made me realise that this was having more of an impact than I thought. So it is really useful to kind of identify activities or things that you do in your day-to-day that actually are having more of an impact than you probably thought. And it is really good, I guess, to have that continual awareness to pace your pace points. I'm sure a lot of us who are disabled or chronically ill have been told you just need to pace so many times. But actually in reality, life happens and it's not always that simple. Sometimes you could be like, I know I need to go lie down, have a nap, just rest. But in reality, you've got work to do, you've got household chores to do. There can be so many things that actually you don't really have that flexibility. But I think even understanding and learning how to implement small changes can have so much more of an impact. At the moment, I am probably physically doing the most I've done in actually a really long time. I'm frequently working away. I've got back into swimming. I'm so pleased that I feel like I do kind of slowly have a bit more control over budgeting and actually pacing successfully while balancing what I need to do in life with also looking after my health. So I really hope this review has been useful. I really was looking around to try and find some and couldn't when I bought mine. So I thought, okay, we're just gonna dive in, give it a go and see what happens. So I do hope that this review has been helpful. Do let me know if you've found it helpful, if you have any questions, and perhaps I could do a follow-up video just answering those questions. I'm very new to YouTube, so if you could like this, comment, or even subscribe to my channel, which sounds so weird now that I've actually said that, but that would be so helpful. Let me know your thoughts and let me know if you have any really good hacks that you have found work for you in terms of keeping to your pace point budget or just keeping them as low as possible. I look forward to hearing your suggestions. Thanks so much.